I never thought I'd find out about my husband's affair through a stranger at the grocery store. My heart sank when she casually mentioned how she saw him at a cafe with another woman, holding hands and laughing like they were in a rom-com. I remember standing there, my frozen peas slowly melting in my cart, trying to process her words. Just last week, he'd told me he was working late on a project. The truth slipped into my mind like a knife. Mark and I had been together for 7 years, married for 5. Our relationship was built on laughter and shared dreams. We talked about starting a family and buying a house in the suburbs. But over the past few months, I noticed his routines shifting in ways that felt off. He started going to the gym at odd hours, claiming he needed to work off stress. I'd ask about his day, and he'd give vague answers, like he was holding something back. I chalked it up to work pressure. But there were small things. His cologne changed, and I remember one night, snuggling on the couch, catching a whiff of a scent I didn't recognize. When I asked, he shrugged it off, saying it was a new brand he was trying. The signs continued to pile up like a horror movie I couldn't pause. One Sunday morning, I was scrolling through our shared bank account, and I noticed a series of charges from a fancy restaurant I knew we hadn't visited. I confronted him about these business dinners he'd never mentioned, and Mark looked at me, confusion twisting his face. Maybe it was a mistake. His voice held a nervous edge that set my instincts on fire. Then there was the night I overheard him on the phone in our bedroom. I had come home early and thought he was talking to a coworker. I could only catch snippets, but the affection in his tone when he said, "I miss you," shattered the last bit of my trust. I stood frozen outside the door, heart pounding, a storm of betrayal brewing inside me. The confrontation happened that same week. I couldn't keep it in any longer. The weight was suffocating. I tossed my courage into the air like a prayer and faced him. "Mark, are you seeing someone else?" The calm facade he wore crumbled instantly. He tried to deny it, throwing up walls of manipulation, making me feel like I was the irrational one. "You're being paranoid. It's just work stress. You know how intense it can get." I saw the flicker of something in his eyes, a moment where I could almost see the truth trying to break free, but he swiftly shut it down with anger. My heart raced as I laid out the evidence I had gathered, the restaurant charges, the phone call, the changed routine. I watched him shift, the cool confidence fading, replaced with rage and defensiveness. He called me crazy, said I was imagining things. I felt my world tilt, drowning in confusion and heartbreak. "You've been lying to me, Mark! All those late nights, the different scent, it adds up!" The tears streamed down my face, and what I thought would be a calm discussion turned into a whirlwind of accusations and deflections. At that moment, I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, and I wasn't sure if I was going to jump or be pushed. Eventually, he confessed to an emotional affair, claiming it meant nothing and it was just a phase. The words felt like poison, choking me. The betrayal wasn't just in the act. It was in the manipulation, the lies, the years of trust tossed aside like yesterday's news. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality, but I knew I couldn't stay in a relationship built on betrayal. I told him I needed space, a time to figure out what I wanted, and he erupted, saying I was throwing away our marriage over nothing. The fallout was brutal. I moved into my sister's place, heart heavy with sorrow and anger. Each day felt like a battle with my own mind, replaying memories, wondering how I could have missed the signs. I had trusted him, loved him, and now I was left questioning everything about myself. Was I not enough? Did I push him away? The emotional roller coaster was exhausting, each twist and turn revealing new layers of pain. In the weeks that followed, I finally made the decision to file for divorce. It was the hardest choice I'd ever made, but I knew I had to prioritize my own well-being. I started therapy, which helped me unpack the whirlwind of emotions and gave me the tools to rebuild my life. I learned that the affair wasn't a reflection of my worth, but rather of his shortcomings. I focused on my passions, began painting again, and even joined a local book club. Looking back, I wish I had trusted my instincts sooner. The signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. If you're feeling uneasy in your relationship, don't brush it aside. Trust your gut, and don't let love blind you to the truth. Healing takes time, but it's worth it to come out stronger on the other side. Life is too short to settle for anything less than love built on honesty and respect. I never thought I'd be the woman who discovers her husband is cheating in the most unexpected way imaginable. But here I am, sharing my story. My husband Jake and I met in college, and for a decade, we built a life filled with dreams, laughter, and love. We had our ups and downs, like any couple, but we managed to navigate them together. Red flags started appearing slowly, like tiny cracks in a wall. He became more secretive about his phone, often taking it into the bathroom or leaving the room to take calls, which I brushed off as work stress. He also started coming home later from work more frequently, claiming he was stuck in meetings. I believed him. After all, he was always ambitious, climbing the corporate ladder in his tech job. The first real crack came when I noticed discrepancies in our finances. One week, I noticed a charge on our joint credit card for a restaurant I'd never heard of. When I asked him about it, he shrugged it off, saying he had to take clients out for dinner. I wanted to believe him, but my gut churned with unease. It escalated when I overheard a conversation at a friend's birthday party. Jake was chatting with one of my friends, and I caught snippets of their conversation. She commented, "So, how's your friend treating you?" I could see him stiffen for a moment. The way he avoided eye contact made my stomach drop. I felt like a spy in my own life, but I couldn't shake the growing suspicion. The little things piled up. The lingering scent of a different perfume on his shirts, a slight change in his demeanor when he came home, more distracted, less affectionate. I started doing some digging, not through texts or emails, but through little inconspicuous observations. He started keeping his phone face down at all times, and when I asked him to let me play a game on it while he was cooking, he hesitated so long that I almost laughed it off. Eventually, I found myself at his office one afternoon, dropping off lunch. I bumped into a coworker who casually mentioned, "Oh, Jake's been spending a lot of time with Sarah lately." My heart raced. I played it cool, but I could feel my palms sweating as I walked back to my car. That was it. I needed to confront him. I chose a quiet evening, waiting for him to come home. When he walked through the door, I felt a mixture of dread and determination. I asked him to sit down, and the words came tumbling out. "Are you seeing someone else?" I watched as his face shifted from confusion to defensive anger. He denied it vehemently, of course, claiming I was being paranoid, that I should trust him. He switched gears to manipulate my feelings, saying I was being insecure and that my accusations were damaging our relationship. It felt like I was losing my mind, questioning my own instincts. The emotional fallout was a hurricane. I felt utterly shattered, like my reality was collapsing. How could I have been so blind? The man I loved was unraveling before me, and I was left with a raw ache in my chest. I spent sleepless nights replaying every conversation, every moment like a broken record. I wrestled with self-doubt. Was I not enough? Had I pushed him away somehow? It was a cycle of confusion and heartbreak, turning me into a shadow of who I once was. Eventually, I made the decision to call a close friend to talk. She showed up with wine and a listening ear, and we spent hours mulling over my situation. She reminded me of my worth, helping me find clarity amid the chaos. I gathered the courage to hire a private investigator, not to confirm my suspicions, but to liberate myself from the torment of uncertainty. Weeks later, I had my answer. Jake was indeed seeing someone he had been lying about for months. The confrontation felt like a scene from a movie, but it was my life. I laid out the evidence and watched him crumble. His initial defense turned to pleading, claiming it was a mistake and that he still loved me. I felt a mix of rage and relief. The truth was finally out, but I knew there was no going back. The next day, I filed for divorce. In the months that followed, I learned to disentangle my identity from the pain. Therapy helped, revealing how I had poured so much into our relationship that I had neglected myself. I rediscovered joy in small things like yoga, painting, and reconnecting with friends. I reflected on everything I had endured, realizing I could redefine love on my own terms. My advice to anyone going through something similar: trust your gut. If you feel something is off, it usually is. Don't minimize your feelings or allow someone else to shape your reality. Life is too short to be with someone who doesn't honor your worth. Sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most liberating paths. I'm still healing, but I'm learning to embrace this new chapter with open arms. I never thought I'd find myself in this situation. My husband, the man I thought I knew, had been living a double life. It all began innocently. Jamie and I had been married for 5 years. Life was busy, 2 jobs, a mortgage, and the usual ups and downs, but it felt steady. At least it did at first. The first red flag was minor. I brushed it off. Jamie's late nights at work became more frequent, and he was suddenly too busy to call during lunch. He returned home smelling of a different cologne, something sweeter and younger. It was subtle, but I noticed. Then came the inconsistencies. When I asked about his day, Jamie gave vague, rehearsed answers that felt off. He mentioned dinners with colleagues, but the names didn't add up. I thought maybe he was just stressed. His promotion had come with more responsibilities. It wasn't until I overheard a conversation between him and his best friend Mark that I started piecing things together. I was in the kitchen, pretending to clean, while they talked in the living room. "You're living the dream, man. Just make sure she doesn't find out," Mark said, laughing. My heart sank. I didn't even know what it was. That weekend, I decided to dig deeper. I checked our joint bank statements while preparing dinner. A couple of odd transactions stood out. Expensive dinners and unusual purchases at stores I knew he never frequented. I felt sick, but kept rationalizing. Maybe he bought a gift for me. Deep down, I felt a growing dread. The smell of his cologne lingered on his shirts, a reminder of something I didn't understand yet. I had friends over for brunch the next Saturday, and when Jamie arrived late, he seemed frazzled. I tried to brush it off, but he was unusually distant, often checking his phone. When I caught a glimpse of the screen, I saw a message from an unfamiliar number. My stomach twisted, but I didn't want to make a scene. Instead, I shared my concerns with my closest friend, Lisa. She was supportive and encouraged me to trust my gut. Eventually, I decided to confront Jamie. I didn't have undeniable evidence, but something felt wrong. One evening, as we sat on the couch, I casually brought it up, trying to gauge his reaction. "Hey, I've noticed you seem a bit off. Everything okay?" His face twitched, and for a split second, I saw panic. "Of course, babe, just work stress. You know how demanding things are." But the way he said it felt rehearsed, like a memorized script. After a moment of silence, I pushed harder. "Jamie, I overheard you talking to Mark the other day. What were you discussing?" His expression shifted, and he avoided my gaze. You know how it is, just guy talk, nothing to worry about." But I was too deep in, I couldn't let it go. "Jamie, I'm not stupid. Something's off. Just tell me the truth." At that moment, I saw the walls go up. He became defensive, his voice rising as he insisted I was overreacting. My heart shattered. Every word felt like a knife, and I struggled against tears as he blamed my insecurities. "You're just paranoid. You always think the worst." My world crumbled, and I could hardly breathe. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, consumed by doubt. Was I imagining things? I replayed every moment in conversation in my head. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. Then a tiny crack in my heart began to form a resolution. I realized I deserved better. The next morning, I gathered my strength and confronted him again, this time about the financial discrepancies. Why are there charges for fancy restaurants? Why the secrecy? His demeanor shifted from defensive to outright angry. "You're being ridiculous. I work hard for my money and I deserve to treat myself. It's none of your business." The way he spoke to me made me feel like the villain in my own life. I felt a mix of heartache and anger bubbling within. "If you're hiding something, Jamie, if you're cheating on me, I need you to come clean." Just like that, everything cracked open. He hesitated, and for a moment I thought he might confess, but instead he lashed out, accusing me of driving him away with my nagging. It hurt more than I could express. I stood there, feeling hollow. In the following days, I took time to process everything. I met with Lisa again, who encouraged me to seek clarity. I ended up hiring a private investigator, and the truth was worse than I could have imagined. Jamie had been seeing someone for months, a coworker I'd met at a few company events. The betrayal stung like 1,000 needles. When I finally confronted him with the evidence, I felt sick, but also a strange sense of empowerment. I know Jamie. I saw the receipts, the photos. You can't deny it anymore. His face drained of color, and for the first time, I saw him vulnerable. But it didn't matter. I had made my decision. I filed for divorce. The emotional fallout was immense. I felt like I had been living in a nightmare for months. At first, I was angry, then heartbroken. I questioned every moment and decision that led me here. But eventually, I found solace in the support of friends and family. They rallied around me, reminding me of my worth. I'm still processing everything, but I've learned a lot about myself through this experience. It's easy to ignore red flags when you're comfortable, but don't. Trust your gut. You deserve honesty, a relationship built on trust and communication. Life is too short to settle for anything less. If you're feeling uneasy, investigate those feelings. You might just save yourself from a world of pain.